Welcome back to the Nerd Lair. We've got another Marvel movie review here. My wife and I just finished Thor: The Dark World this afternoon. Long story short, we're supposed to go to Seattle. I mentioned that in a card video here. Had some heart issues that sent me to the ER right when we were about to get in the car and head to Chicago for our flight. So bummer. We decided we're gonna watch a Marvel movie, and then we put together some Lego sets. So I had picked out uh, or Darth Maul's ship, the scimitar, I think is what it's called, ship. So that was fun. But Thor: The Dark World was the movie we decided to watch, and I was dreading this movie. And after watching it, it was for good reason, I think. So I'm going to hop into my 10-point scale that I've done for the previous ones, and then you let me know what you think of this rating. Thor: The Dark World is how I remembered it. It's a very forgettable Marvel movie. There was so many things that happened in this movie. I'm like, that's in here? And I've probably seen this movie 3 times before this viewing, and I didn't remember a whole lot, and it's just a movie that I don't enjoy. I'm going to be honest. And maybe I'm being a little cynical. I just had my Sinners review, and maybe I'm in a little cynical mood just with things that have been going on and stuff, but I didn't love this movie again. Going down the line here, the story I give a 4 out of 10. The story is just boring. It's centered around an Infinity Stone. You make Jane the center of the story, kind of holding on to the powers of the stone, and Thor, and then Malekith, the villain, and they all have these motivations for the stone or for Jane, but you just don't care the whole time you're watching it. Loki kind of makes it interesting at points. Odin kind of being a big old grump is kind of unfun to watch. I just I didn't resonate with the story of this movie. It's just not my favorite. Characters, though, I'm going to be very positive here. I give a 9. Thor, Loki, Odin, Jane, they're good characters. They're people that we've come to really care about up until this point when this movie came out. Avengers and Thor 1. And they continue. They're good characters. They're fun characters. They're just not used that particularly well in this film. I think that they're used better in Ragnarok and even in Love and Thunder than this movie, personally. Visuals, I'll give a 7. It's a fine look. It's a Marvel movie. There's money put involved. There's money put in here. They knew what they were doing to this point. The visuals are pretty cool, I will say. There's nothing that's going to blow you away, but it's definitely good work. And 7 is good for me. Direction, I also have a 7, and that's going to seem kind of weird for me saying it, but it flows well as a Marvel movie. I think the big issue is the writing. I think what was given to be directed was good. I mean, the actors interact well with each other. You kind of believe the love moments and the hate moments, and I mean, all that kind of flows okay. They did a good job putting together the scenes and everything. So I give that a good. It's not horrible in that area. The dialogue and humor, there's a few lines that I find really funny. And then there was the scene with Loki, and he's going through being different people, and he turns into Steve Rogers, and that actually made me laugh out loud. I'd give this a 6, though. The dialogue itself is just kind of like, okay, you got Loki kind of just being himself. You've got Thor in his rigid Thor phase. I'll call this Thor 1 and 2 and Avengers 1 is rigid Thor. He's not quite into that too funny Thor. I think Ragnarok's the perfect balance of Thor from these movies and then future Thor. He wasn't trying to be too funny. The dialogue between the villain, it just is lame. And Odin gets overly grumpy, and you just kind of get tired of their back and forth at times. I didn't love that part. There was some funny parts. For the most part, it's kind of dry for me. Emotional impact, I have a 5. You're supposed to really care when his mom dies, and I just didn't. You kind of see it coming from a mile away. You're supposed to really care when Loki dies, except I know the rest of the MCU now. I don't feel like that has any kind of emotional impact on a person who has seen Marvel movies before. Now that death is all right, well, we know he's coming back. Uh, Soundtrack and score. This was the surprise for me. I give this an 8. There was some really beautiful music in there. When the movie ended, I went back to the Lego set and I was just listening to the credits. And I looked at my wife and I was like, man, this music is actually really good. And it is really pleasant. And at points in the movie, putting my head down for a few minutes, it was like, man, this almost sounds like Star Wars. And I have a lot of respect for Star Wars music. I was really pleasantly surprised with how the music kind of gripped me a little bit there. The legacy, I have a 5 on this movie. There's some things that lead into other things, where obviously it's a whole movie around an Infinity Stone. Loki kind of leads in other things. Thor kind of becoming the leader of Asgard leads into other things. But I'd say overall, it's just not a movie that has that big of an impact on the rest of the story. So, has some, 5. The villain, I give it 2. He's not the worst thing in the world, but it's pretty darn close. Malekith is the most... I didn't even remember his name before watching the movie. He is that forgettable to me. His minions are forgettable. By tomorrow, I'll forget what they look like. It's just not a guy that I would ever buy a figure for or care to get any kind of memorabilia for, and I'm a collector. So, yeah, it's a 2. He's very bland on his dialogue. You can hardly understand him. He's... I mean, that's just what he sounds like. It's like, okay, evil incarnate. I'm evil, and I'm going to stay evil, and I've got no reason not to be evil, and it's just kind of boring. Overall enjoyment, I give this a 5. It's not a movie that I really wanted to watch. It's not a movie that when we go through that I really want to go back to. A good friend of mine and I were going through the other night and kind of giving just like cold cut numbers to movies. And Thor the Dark World was for both of us on the lower end, and it stays there for me. And an overall of 5.8 out of 10, which is by far the lowest of the movies up until this point. So let me know what you think of the movie down below in the comments section. I'm gonna stitch with this a current ranking of all the movies that we've watched thus far. So I will end the video in just a minute. So here are the Marvel movies that I have scored up until this point. We have Iron Man at a 7.18 out of 10, and I do feel that that's a touch low, but you know what? It was my gut punch reaction. It was also the first one I had done. Captain America at an 8. Thor was at a 7 out of 10. Iron Man 2, 8.4. Avengers, 9.4. Iron Man 3 is 7.9. And then Thor the Dark World at a 5.8 out of 10. So that is our Marvel movies up until this point. One of the things that I find interesting is that I have Iron Man 1 is my lowest Iron Man, which going into this I wouldn't have thought, but it was my honest thoughts. So let me know what you think of these. And as always, may the good Lord bless you and have a good one.